Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Progressive Overload Podcast. Have you ever thought about strengthening multiple areas of your life at the same time? Then you've come to the right place. Our goal is to help you identify ways that you might need a progressive overload to break through those plateaus and keep you growing.
Hey, what's up, Progressive Overload family? We have a little different atmosphere at the table this week, but we still want to welcome you here joining us. We have an important topic that we wanted to talk about in today's episode that has been really pre-planned, and we'll get to that here in a minute with the exciting results of the conclusion of the contest we've been talking about and kind of where we're walking through our own physical journeys as we transition from that contest really to the lifestyle that has been built afterwards.
Right. Yeah.
But that said, there has been a lot going on in our local communities, if you can't tell by the sound of our voices and the tiredness that is creeping into our minds and bodies. But we want to take a little bit of time just to update those of you who are listening and have been following on what is going on in our local community, really, and really the surrounding area. It's not even just local to us. It's really more than us. Although there is some that we were walking through on our own. And so just to update everybody, we are safe. Our families are safe. There have been a few minor injuries due to some weather events that have happened as of a few days ago. And we are just trying to move forward, trying to rebuild and revitalize our local community in unity with the surrounding area. We've had a lot of volunteers coming through our town and digging into really dive into the trenches and help us. And so, but before we kind of dig into that, Joe, why don't you give us a little bit of update? I know there's been some stuff that's really hit you personally.
Yeah, so for those that you have not caught on to what Dustin is talking about, this town that we are in right now was hit by an F3 tornado.
Yes.
I'm sure most of you out there already know that, but I texted y'all yesterday. I looked at some analytics of our podcast, and we actually do have a couple listeners from like Australia and New Zealand and India, which is crazy to me.
Which is awesome.
I know, it's so wild. But for those of y'all, this community was hit by a tornado, and so that's why specifically Adam and Dustin, because y'all are being the hands and feet of Jesus right now, feeding people who lost their homes and helping people clean up and all of that stuff. That's why if they're talking a little slow and a little sluggish, that's why they are exhausted from the aftermath of that. But my hometown, where my family lives, was wiped out by a wildfire. Just a couple days ago, about a week before the tornado hit. So I was there all day yesterday at my parents' what used to be their house, and just sifting through the ashes, looking for just anything that we could, nothing was salvageable, but maybe looking for something. Like we found my grandpa's 38 special revolver, and it's not usable, but it's something that we can still treasure.
Sure. Yeah.
And so kind of finding those moments that we can say, oh man, this is awesome that we found this, and just kind of those bright little tiny happy moments.
It's those little nuggets of fresh air, and I can almost picture like a little bit of energy when you find that stuff, because I can't imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is the home you grew up in.
Yeah, I've been there since I was probably 6 or 7.
I can't imagine the devastation of it just being gone.
Yeah.
And everything in it, all the memories, and I think to my own home, which is the house I grew up in, and to think through everything that I have there as far as memories and special things and family belongings, so to say. Yeah. Not to say that those take precedence over lives,
Right. Absolutely.
And we're ecstatic. We're glad that everybody was safe in that scenario, and that you guys are alive to walk through that together, obviously.
Sure.
But in context of what's going on, there's a quote that our pastor made actually on local news while he was being interviewed. He said, at this point we have a lot of homes to rebuild, we're not preaching funerals.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and there is a blessing and an encouragement that is in that.
Yeah.
And we've been operating off of, I don't know about you, Adam, been operating off of pure adrenaline
Yeah.
for the
Yeah,
last
it's
couple of
been-
days.
It's been really, it's been tough in that regard, just because you don't physically have to do that all the time,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and to prolong that and sustain that is very
Mhm.
difficult. And so that's why it's critical that I know, like, for your parents' community and for our community, people are just coming together and doing what needs to be done.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what side of the aisle politically you're on anymore. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter all of these goofy things that we talk about
Mhm.
and fight about, argue over. None of that has come to the surface lately, because we've got other things that are
Absolutely.
pressing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been fun to watch as a pastor, just to watch people. And we've recently been going through this series where we're talking about our dormant spiritual behavior
Okay.
and how we break out of that.
Yeah.
Well, God pretty much took care of that,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
He's like, I've got some things for you to do,
Uh-huh.
and go do them. And so it's been
oh, wow.
interesting to watch from a spiritual perspective and from a pastor's
Yeah.
standpoint. Watch the people of the church and other churches and community members that don't even go to church just
Yeah.
do what needs to be done and serve other people and put all that stuff aside. And
Absolutely.
it's been good to watch. And
Yeah.
so that's encouraging. Like you're saying, that's one of those things that you can draw energy from and strength
Mhm.
from.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was on the phone with my parents. I guess Monday night, the night of the tornadoes happened here, and my mom was just like, with all of these wildfires, and there were dozens and dozens of tornadoes that happened across the nation that day and through that system. She was like, "You think the Lord is trying to tell us something right now?" And I was like, "Yeah, but why is it happening to us, small town America, and not?" Forgive me if you're from California. Why isn't it happening to California or places like that? And
Why is it happening to what seems like the middle of nowhere?
Yeah. Well, it's happening to like the Bible Belt,
Yeah.
And my dad had a wonderful answer to that, and he said, because the world is looking at us to show them how you're supposed to handle these kinds of disasters and how you're supposed to come together, and it's our duty to show the world how to respond to these things instead of looting and tearing and going and stealing things out of people's houses that were tore down. There's none of that happening here, and I guarantee that.
It's been beautiful to watch in a sense, amidst the destruction. This is a major event that's happened in the life of our town. And I would say really the history of our town, if
Mhm.
you look overall. And there have been news crews from the surrounding areas that have come in to do segments because this is a big story for our area.
Right.
And seeing the interviews of our local people, and everyone is simply just they're pointing out the thankfulness that they have that life was not lost.
Right.
Mhm.
And I do not think I've heard a single interview or person talk to that did not give the response of God was with us.
Right.
And so we definitely have the example being shown of people pointing to the Lord, as well as being able to give that public testimony in
For sure.
a different platform than typical,
Right.
to people that extends beyond our community to say, we are here. We are standing together. We are strong. We are leaning on the Lord, and He is working in our midst, and we're seeing Him everywhere.
Yeah. And I'm a huge fan of the word sovereignty.
Yes.
And I think that as I hear people talk more and more about this, there's not been one person that was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Absolutely.
And that's such a testimony to God's sovereignty, because
Absolutely.
Another minute or a different decision or something else,
Literally.
Even our secretary at the church, she usually stays, and she even stopped in the driveway to check back with me to make sure my son wasn't coming across, but she said I was just prompted to keep going.
Yeah.
And then so she was out of the way, and those kind of things matter,
absolutely.
and people are talking about them, and just how God is overall and in all, and so we want to make sure and praise Him for that. So.
Absolutely. I told you guys a story. Our pastor left here from the office. We were all ready to just bunker down here, and we were like, okay, well, we'll just be here. Whatever happens, we'll let it pass. We're in a safe space. And he said, I'm gonna go home and check on my family, just bunker down with them. I got home with his wife and their child that's home with them. And he just happened to have the thought of, let's go put the truck. We'll pull your car into the into the garage. Let's go put the truck somewhere where it'll be at least a little protected. Brand new truck from hail damage, right? Like,
Yeah.
And he even was one to say, that's not something I do. I don't run from those things. I never have. So it was new for me to do that. And within minutes, they found out their home was gone. And had they been home, they almost most certainly would have died.
Absolutely.
And he even made the comment, even the timing of when it came through.
Yeah.
Because if it had come through really any later, we probably would have seen some
Kids would have been
major
home,
injuries, if not casualties.
Right.
And just, I mean, man, it gives me goosebumps and it makes my stomach turn to think of if that had come through at night.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This would be a whole different thing to walk through.
Right.
And so we were certainly blessed, and we were glad that we have the opportunity to be the hands and feet of Jesus, and we're super thankful for the organizations who have moved in to help relieve us and take over things. Our schools have been majorly affected, and part of their classrooms are going to end up displaced for a little bit. And just to be able to step in and be there has been great. It's been exceptional.
It's really been good. And we have, I know, like, you guys have an agency here at your church, and we have one at our church doing two different things. But we want to say thank you to some of our listeners, I'm sure, that have reached out and checked on. And
Absolutely.
just, we want to say thank you for checking on us and checking on the community and, for praying for us. And so.
And even I would go so far to say as vice versa, if you, we're glad that you've checked on us. Those of you who, listen to this podcast and are hearing this, we're glad that you guys are safe. We're glad that we're all being able to walk through this together. And, we're thankful for the help, but don't be scared to ask for help as well.
Sure.
If you're listening and there is something that can be done to help you, reach out and find the help. I would say that even if we're not able ourselves to dig in and join in, we'll do our best to try and find those who can.
Yeah, we certainly have enough resources to make your need met, to be able to meet your need.
Absolutely. So. And yeah, just don't walk through this alone. That's why we have community like this.
Yeah.
But that said, guys, let's go ahead and transition a little bit. For those of you who have been our longtime listeners, you may have heard us talk about this wellness contest that we were taking part of and giving you updates and having a little bit of good fun competitive spirit amongst the three of us throughout. And we have some results to reveal to you about that contest and really the all-around success that we as a trio have had and kind of the direction we're going with the end of that in mind. So Joe, why don't you hit us with some numbers?
Yeah. So if you remember, the goal of the 60-day challenge was to lose 9% of our body weight, and I am proud to say that all three of us did nail down that minimum of 9%. So congrats to you guys. That was really fun to go through together, and I'm a little bit sad that it's over, but also I'm glad to be in a place where I can be a little bit more balanced and not so focused in and dialed in on some of the things. And we'll get to that later also. But as far as, we are competitive, so we gotta say who got first, second, and third, I'm
going to cover my ears. I don't want to know.
Let's do it.
I know. So Adam got first place with 10.81%.
Yes, sir.
How many pounds was that total?
I think it was 31 something
like
point
that,
something pounds.
How does that gold medal feel?
Heavy.
Yeah, I was about to say, does it weigh heavy?
And then second place was D Money with 9.46%.
Yeah.
How many pounds was
Thank
that?
you. I was right at 25.
25, yeah. And I was third in 9.34%.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
And I was it was like 26 pounds.
Yeah.
And I started a little heavier than D Money, so that's why my percentage was a little lower.
Somebody
okay.
asked us as we were in the gym one day, why are we working so hard at this? And I told him, I said, I don't want to be the one guy at the table that doesn't make it.
Exactly.
And that's why we were pushing so hard at the end. I
Literally,
think.
yeah.
I
And
literally 2 days before I was thinking to myself, and I was going, man, we had just finished recording our fasting episode, and I was like, I'm afraid that I'm not gonna make it after having the success that I've had thus far.
uh-huh.
Maybe I should just fast the last 2 days and eat nothing so that I can make this way in. I
Yeah.
did not do that, to clarify. I
did.
I was very much healthily approaching outside of
Yeah.
the working it off that morning a little bit.
Yeah.
But we made it.
Yeah.
We
We're
did
okay.
make it. Good. Congratulations to
And
you
and
guys.
congratulations to us, but we also encouraged some other people to join us there. It wasn't
Yeah.
just us that finished. There's, I think, 7 total people
7 total.
out of everybody that had joined, and I know one of those was real close the day of, and it wasn't quite there.
Oh,
and
that
we
was funny.
and we gave him the motivation, and guys, you should have seen the picture of the jumping jacks and the bike riding and the walking around the sauna of a pool room to sweat things off and do everything he could. And we were worried he wasn't going to make it, and he knows who he is if he happens to listen to this. We were worried that he wasn't going to make it, but he did.
Yay.
He
I was
did.
proud of him.
And
Even though
it
we
was
split
awesome.
the pot, so that took away money from our
he
pockets. but
took
that's okay.
money away from us, but we are happy to have helped him
Yeah.
in that way.
Yeah.
So
So the nature of our fitness journeys has, for this last 60, 70 days, has totally been on the motivate.
cut.
Yes, the
Yeah.
motivation of competition. And
Mhm.
so now what we have to talk about is, like we've said multiple times, the healthy lifestyle does not end at the end of this 60-day competition.
Absolutely.
And so that's why the name of this episode is called the 305-Day Challenge.
Absolutely.
So what we're going to do is kind of talk individually about kind of what our goals are for the rest of the year, and then how we're going to use each other for accountability, how to use some tools that we've talked about. I thought it was pretty cool. I was at church on Sunday, and the pastor had this thing he called, it's the 1-year challenge, and he had a stack of money, and he said, I think it was like $1,000. And he said, here's $1,000 on this table. I want to challenge all of y'all to do the 1-year challenge, to totally plug into this church. Do not miss on a Sunday. Come to Bible studies, come to small groups. Just totally commit your lives. And he said, if you do not see a change in your life by the end of that year, this $1,000 is yours. And I thought that was a really cool approach, because literally, if we commit a full year of what we just did this last 60 days, just imagine where we would be if we continued that motivation for a full year, not a 60-day challenge.
Right.
And I mean, if obviously my weight loss will slow down, because I was doing pretty extreme things to get my weight loss this last 60 days.
Yeah.
But if I kept that going for a full year, even on a slower rate, I would be in really, really good shape. Like,
Peak
talking
physical
about-
condition.
talking about
That's right.
actually seeing some abs for the first time in my life, and not that that's a goal of mine. I don't care. But I could definitely get there if I could commit a full year to this. And-
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer that I have abs. I just choose to protect them because I care so much. And so they stay covered up.
I have
But-
the ab,
Yeah.
just one.
The ab.
Yeah.
I like that. I do. I really, man.
Did you know that there are more millionaires in America than there are people that have visible abs?
That's exciting. That
That's-
gives me
that's
ho-
awesome.
hope.
I know. That's
Makes me feel
it's
good
like-
that I'm
it's
not
a-
in either one of those groups.
It gives me hope that I'll be a millionaire one day.
yeah.
No, I hate that having abs is like this. It's visualized as like the pinnacle of health.
Yeah.
It's
People
not.
view it as like the gold standard of, do you have abs though?
Yeah.
No. Do you eat ever?
Well, for those of you that are listening that do have abs, we apologize.
Yeah. And congrats.
Adam
And-
apologizes. I don't.
Congratulations to you. So 305 days. I'm going to exclude the tornado week just because of the.
Amen. Because I've ate like awful.
I'm
this
pretty
whole
sure
week.
no matter what is in front of us at this point, we've eaten it
Yeah.
just because we need the energy.
Sustenance.
Absolutely.
We do.
When it's readily available and
so
it's there.
305 minus 1 week.
Okay, so we'll go at 298.
298 days.
Yeah, thank you for doing math. I'm surprised I can even tie my shoes at this point in life.
It took a calculator.
The challenge for me, as we got close to the end of the 60 days, I was actually getting more excited about the 305 days than I was the end of the 60 days
Yeah.
because
Right.
I was so you get kind of to a point in just trying to lose weight. You're like, oh my goodness, how much longer can I sustain this?
Mhm.
You know, and so like you used the word balance, Joe, and I love that because I began to crave needing some more balance.
Mhm.
You know, if I just wanted to eat, you know, a taco, let me have a taco shell and a taco
Exactly.
and be happy about it and not, you know, try to, like we've talked about in earlier episodes, I don't need to beat myself up over just having a meal or just enjoying my food just for the sake of enjoyment.
Mm.
And so I began to crave that and want that. And then, of course, this week came. And so it's kind of been a little bit off for this week. But I'm looking forward to getting back to a healthy lifestyle and back to the gym and back to just doing kind of a maintenance program of what we've been doing. Because for me, we're talking about goals. My goal is probably to stay in the clothes that I'm in now. And that has nothing to do with the scale. It just has everything to do with how my clothes feel.
Yeah.
And then the weight loss, if it comes, great. If it doesn't, I'm okay because I feel good about where I am. As the elder statesman of the room here, my fitness goals may be different than you guys, but I can still go and play basketball with my daughter. I can still, you know, run and catch the football with my son and do those kind of things. And that's, you know, more important to me than
which having that time is so important.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can see where almost like being, you know, and I don't know how you felt beforehand, but almost being able to reclaim that little bit of almost life really is changing in and of itself. And so once you've grabbed hold of that, like you don't want to let go.
Yeah. I suffered in high school and college from a mild case of athleticism. And so I'm grateful to get back to, you know, having that ability just to be mildly athletic.
And meanwhile, I'm rediscovering what athleticism is, I guess. You know, I've said this all along, and I don't know if we've said this on the podcast. I can't remember. But my view of the 60-day challenge was this: once it's over, sure, the challenge is over, but that's when we hit the start line. You know, it's then that it really matters. It is a cakewalk for us to walk through a challenge like that, motivated by competition.
That's the easy part.
And get the work done.
Right.
Yeah.
Making it a discipline to where it becomes a lifestyle afterwards, and we live it out in the day-to-day for the rest of the year until the next 60-day challenge.
With
or
no
whatever.
money on the line.
With nothing on the line, nothing to push us, nothing that we're earning other than what we see in ourselves.
Yeah.
That's where we see the start.
Yeah.
That's where we see the struggle, and that's where I think we fail most often.
Absolutely.
I would say for myself, you know, as we talk a little bit about goals, you know, I kind of lean towards Adam of you know, I have some clothes that fit now that I'd like to stay fitting into. I see my weight loss is not done. I'm going to push myself further. I'm going to do that in a slow, controlled, and healthy way. I've kind of hit number wise. If we're looking, I'm 243 right now, based off the end of the contest, minus the tornado week. You just had to throw that in there. Sorry. And I would really like to see myself hit about 210.
Yeah.
Is the number that's kind of come to my head.
Yeah.
But I want to do that by December. Right?
Okay.
Like I want to do that throughout the course of the year.
Yeah.
Little chunks at a time, bit by bit, because I know I'm going to have a lot going on here and there. And especially once summer hits, you know, youth ministry gets crazy. And I want to be able to hit that weight loss, but I want to do it in a controlled manner where I'm still in the gym. perhaps not living there like I have been throughout the contest, but still pushing myself to progress physically.
Yeah.
As well as to monitor my nutrition and simply make healthier choices where available.
Yeah.
When I hit church camp, there's some foods and things where I'm just not going to be able to avoid what I can eat, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to control my portion size in that, for me, is kind of going to be a focus.
Yeah.
And that's going to be something that I'm going to work on post tornado week. And I'm going to push myself in that arena because I know that I need to work.
Yeah.
As far as the gym goes, like I have plans to sit down with Joe and approach the question of what does transitioning my program to a strength building program look like. We kind of talked about this a little bit towards the end of the contest ourselves, of transitioning my program. I've been on it for a while, so just to get something a little fresh.
Yeah.
And perhaps to shift goals a little bit. I would still love to put on some muscle mass as well as cut weight, and I kind of want to. That's why I want to approach things in a very methodical, kind of thought out and slow, controlled way, to where I can build that muscle mass I desire to see, because I enjoy seeing that growth in that area, but also cutting the weight that I don't need.
So Joe, before we get to your goals. Dustin said something about putting on muscle and still cutting weight and those kind of things. And I have been kind of walking that journey now for some time, but what is a general time frame for our listeners, to expect to see results? You're going to walk in 3 weeks and go, I'm not seeing any difference, because I know some people think that. They think, that it's because we live in I can make rice in 60 seconds. I should be able to make,
exactly.
muscles in the same amount of time.
Yeah.
What is a general or a healthy way to approach looking at yourself and finding results?
We've talked about all the different metrics that you can pay attention to, like circumference measurements and stuff like that. That's important, but a balanced and healthy way to focus on this. So if you want to lose weight while building muscle, it's going to definitely, the scale will go down much, much slower than if all you cared about was just losing weight.
Right. I feel like my position is a decent example of that, because I've spent time putting on the muscle and trying to cut a little bit of weight. Now I saw a lot of growth on the scale number wise, compared to it being the same or dropping. But even then, it took me a year to really, and not even a year. We're just now about to hit the year point of me starting, because I really didn't start till April.
Yeah.
And man, it's one of those. I look at it and I see, it took me a year to see, not that change wasn't happening, but for the change to be noticeable.
Right.
If that makes sense.
And that's true. I mean, if you think about putting on 8 to 10 pounds of muscle in 1 year takes a lot of work and consistency in a full year.
Yeah.
And it might be like an ounce on your biceps and then another ounce on your quads. And I mean, it's going to be throughout, they're going to be tiny gains throughout all of the different muscle groups. And so that's why it takes so much consistency and in order to actually see major muscle growth.
And I think that's part of what has me excited about going forward, because I'm ready. Joe, I did that scan, what was it, back in October or September. I did a full body scan that measured kind of fat percentage and muscle percentage, and did a lot of breaking things down in a numerical sense. That, at the time I had no metric for tracking it because it was the first time I'd done it. But it's, I'm going to give it another few weeks, and then I'd like to set up a follow-up and be able to see the side-by-side of before and after, really the contest, but there's been a lot of work outside the contest even that has been done for me, both before and now once I do this after, and to be able to look at those side-by-side and see, okay, this is kind of areas where I dropped fat throughout this whole process. This is where I kind of saw muscle growth. I can maybe see some imbalances on my muscle where I maybe
Mhm.
need to focus my program up a little bit on
Yeah.
one side or the other, just
Yeah.
to try and even things out a little bit. Like, I feel like there's so much that I'm going to be able to glean from or learn from that, and so I'm really excited to
Me
get to
too.
that.
Me too. That'll be fun to
But
watch.
obviously, Tornado Week, we're gonna give it a little bit
Get a little
before
time
we
to take
dive into that.
For that to go away.
So all three of us have been kind of, since I am overseeing, and I know what workouts y'all are doing, and I'm doing very similar workouts. And so the best transition I think we should all three make at the same time is move into a strength phase workout plan, and focus for these next
Sure.
8 weeks on building maximal strength. So
Sure.
we're talking about loading up the barbell or dumbbells as heavy as we
Yes.
possibly can,
Oh,
and
excited.
doing low amount of reps. And
Love it.
this pairs well with going on what I call a mini bulk. And so I'm going to talk about, that's kind of
Mini bulk.
a little concept I wanted to talk about, is doing mini cuts and mini bulks. We
So,
talk about, go
Is
ahead.
that the little green guy that gets real mad? Is it like a mini version of?
Mini Hulk?
Mini bulk.
Oh, mini bulk.
Not mini
Got
Hulk.
it.
No. Yeah.
Got
yeah.
it. I thought you were just trying to make us look like the Hulk. I was excited.
I mean, we could do that too.
My inner excitement was intensifying.
We talk about
yeah.
how our bodies adapt to whatever stimulus we're giving it. We have been, for this last 60, 90 days, we have been on a cut. We have not, we have been trying to cut the calories as much as possible. We've been doing a little higher volume type of training to try to burn all those calories. And so now is the time that we need to transition to a mini bulk. And so what the mini bulk and mini cuts are is they're short periods of caloric restriction versus short periods of what's the opposite of caloric? Adding
Surplus.
calories. Surplus. Yeah, caloric surplus.
Got you.
And so you can kind of typically do them like 2 to 4 weeks at a time. You go 2 weeks to where I'm eating at a pretty large deficit, and then you go at 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever your body feels like of eating in a surplus.
Now, I would assume surplus or deficit, whichever direction we're going, depending on the time frame, we would find ourselves macro-wise, if we wanted to get into that and talk about that, I guess we can. But from just my mental processing of this, I would assume one of the biggest things would be to make sure we're hitting our protein intake, right?
Absolutely, yes, great
That's
point.
probably going to be one of our things that we key in on more.
Yeah,
I
so
guess.
for me, regardless if I'm on a mini bulk or a mini cut, my protein intake stays the same. What changes is how many carbs and how much fat I'm bringing in. So because my goal is building muscle, I need to make sure that I'm having my protein first, and then
Okay.
I worry about my carbs and fats
Okay.
as it goes.
So you kind of have told us and defined what a quote unquote mini cut and mini bulk is. What would you say? Obviously, we know that it's a restriction and a surplus, and so the difference will be on, or I guess the difference of performing these things would be more so food based, nutrition based.
Yeah.
But walk us through kind of the effects of the mini cut and mini bulk. What are we going to see in the gym? What are we going to see almost in a physical sense? And I want to be careful in saying that because just like we talked about, it is a slow process where we don't expect to see immediate change in the mirror. I'm not going to go looking like a bodybuilder in 4 weeks because I've bulked, right? But if we were to do this for 8 weeks, 16 weeks, whatever, as we off and on this, until you switch our programs again.
Yeah.
What does that day to day us looking different? And I would assume if it's strength based, you talked about loading up the barbell, picking up the dumbbells, as heavy as we can get them. I would assume the biggest change would be we would see some of those numbers go up.
Yeah, absolutely. So the purpose of is I pair a mini cut or a mini bulk with different types of exercise adaptations. Whenever we're in the cuts, we tend to do more higher volume type stuff, and the goal of that is to lose body fat and burn lots of calories. You might add a little extra cardio during your mini cut, and then the bulk is the opposite. That's when we're trying to add muscle, so we can and strength. So we lift heavy, lots of volume,
Sure.
and then we eat in a surplus so that our body can put on muscle. So it's this process of trimming off the fat, adding the muscle, trimming off fat, adding muscle. And if
Okay.
you just continue following that for a year.
So programmatically, for like the sake of our movements and such, we're going to be hitting similar set numbers, but probably lower rep range
when we're in a strength phase,
for
yeah,
the bulk, I
Mhm.
guess.
Yeah,
And then for that higher rep range for when we're trying to cut fat,
yeah,
that I'm going to assume is going to be very similar to what we've been doing overall.
Yeah.
Maybe a little different, obviously, but
Yeah.
overall similar to what we've been walking through.
Right.
Okay.
And so if you're very results based and you have to know and you have to be validated by what you're seeing or what other people see, it's probably not the healthiest way to approach it. But if you have to have it, do this for
Yeah.
6 months and then find somebody that you haven't seen in 6 months and
Right.
let them look at
Yeah.
you and go, hey,
Yeah.
look how different you are.
yeah, for sure.
Because that's probably the only way you're really going to see it is have somebody else point it out to you. Because you're going to see
True.
you're going to see every day and it looks the same, and
Yeah,
and so if you really have to have that, I wouldn't advise it, but that would be one of the most validating points is if you find somebody that you haven't seen or somebody you run across and they go, hey, look at you,
yeah.
you look fantastic. And
So what you're telling me, Joe, is when I'm in the gym and I see these guys like Adam who are lifting like quadruple what I can because they're just absolute animals in the gym. Through this mini cut and mini bulk series, there's a chance I might close the gap a tiny bit. Potentially. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, you might.
Sweet.
For sure. If you
Oh man.
stick with it, man, for sure. So that's my plan. Is be very methodical on how I handle these periods of caloric restriction and then
Okay.
bulking and then caloric restriction and surplus. And that
Sure.
once again that keeps the body from getting adapted. And then, like I said, it's like building a sculpture. We're gonna trim a little bit off, and then we're gonna add a little bit here. Then we're gonna trim a little bit off. Then we're gonna add a little bit.
That's my goal is to keep working on those shoulder movements until I get shoulders like Adam. I've seen him in
Come
there
on.
working, and it's crazy. You should see it.
no, you shouldn't. Thank you,
Things.
Dustin. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey,
And go ahead.
I was just going to say my goal is to be like Joe when I grow up. So
if I grow up.
Y'all need to aim higher.
So 305-day challenge, we are excited that you're going to jump on with us, and whatever your challenge might be, it might be a good time for you to add some accountability in, post it to the social media
For
page
sure.
and say, this is what I'm looking to do in the next, 305 days minus a week, because we're going to give ourselves a week. You can give yourself whatever week you
Right.
just had.
We're gonna need to give ourselves a week.
So you
Yeah.
get a little bit of grace there. So whatever
Yeah.
week you just had, just take it off and start with us.
Yeah.
And so put that in there, and let us know what your goals are and what you plan to do, and maybe we can help you along the way.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
One last bit I wanted to add is the fact that if you struggle with discipline, I am a person that I honestly do struggle with discipline. The way that you can combat that is, instead of having to drive discipline in your head, just build habits. Don't focus on discipline, just build habits. I am in the habit right now from this competition of being in the gym every chance I get, and I love it, and I'm going to continue that habit because it's part of my day, and I love that. I'm not there. I don't feel like I'm there because I'm just this super disciplined person. I'm there because it's part of my everyday habit. And so just focus on that. Build habits. If you're someone who do not consider yourself a very disciplined person, don't worry about that. Just focus on building habits, and I think that should take you pretty far.
Absolutely. Anything else, guys?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, thank you guys for
Yeah.
joining us today. Thank you again for your thoughts and your prayers and the things that we've been through in our communities.
Yeah,
And we want to reciprocate that, and we know that we're praying for you guys as well.
for sure.
And anything you need or find a need or somebody in need, just let us know. We'd
That's right.
love to try to help any way that we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Our prayer for you guys, for our local community, and for those really around the world who are being impacted by just the sheer craziness that is going on is that God would provide you with a peace that is beyond our ability to understand, that truly can only come from Him, that we will see Him at work. And, it's been said around here since the beginning that God wastes nothing, and He will have glory through this. He will be seen through this. And, this is our opportunity to not only be the hands and feet of Jesus, but to be that walking testimony that people see, that He is wasting nothing. And so as we walk through that, and as you walk through your journeys, let's just partner together, lean on that peace, lean on the promises we have through Him, and just know that He's at work. And so, yeah, we're excited that you guys were able to join us at the table. Like we said, we know it's a little bit different atmosphere as far as what we're walking through right now. And so do forgive us for that. But yeah, we look forward to seeing you guys around. And we got to get to work. So
let's get to work. 305 days minus a week. Let's do it.
Week. You guys get 305. We get minus week.
Nah, we'll give it to you.
We'll give it to you.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Join us again next week. Thanks for listening to the Progressive Overload Podcast. We're honored to be a small part of your day. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or are interested in sponsoring our efforts, please feel free to reach out via email. Find us at progressiveoverloadpod@gmail.com. Don't forget to subscribe and follow our podcast so you'll be notified when our next episode drops.
And as always, you can help us reach the masses by sharing our podcast with your friends and family. And then check us out on Facebook and Instagram to follow our own personal journeys and get an inside look on our day-to-day lives. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.